I once watched a colleague agree to do a £40,000 piece of work for 20,000. And the worst part is he was planning to deliver every single bit of it. Let me just paint the picture for you. This was a few years back when I was working out of Kingston upon Thames in the UK. And it was one of those surprisingly beautiful summer days. And yes, we do get them occasionally in the UK. And our offices at the time were sat right on the banks of the River Thames. It really was an absolutely beautiful, picturesque scene. And I was outside enjoying my lunch. Then a young creative, and let's call him John, obviously it's not his real name, came and sat down next to me. He was bright and ambitious and part of a fast-track scheme that the group of companies I worked with had. But on this day, he looked particularly puzzled. So I asked him, "What's up, John?" He told me he'd just come from a client meeting and the client had loved the proposal, but they said that their budget was only £20,000, which was half what the agency had quoted. So the client had asked them to go back and revise the quote and meet the budget. And John had been given the short straw of amending the quote to meet the client budget. So I asked him, "So what are you going to do to make the £20,000 budget then?" He said, "Well, I'm just trimming the hours." So I paused and thought about it and I said, "Well, I mean, you're trimming the hours?" Well, he said, "The client still wants everything we presented and we've still got to make it fit their budget. So I'm cutting the hours." Well, that's why I had to step in. At the end of the day, I'm a chartered accountant and a certified project manager. And it's my job to get involved in these sorts of things. And I explained to him, well, that's the wrong question. It's not how do I trim the hours? The right question is, what do I remove from the scope in order to meet the client budget? John genuinely thought that trimming the hours was the correct approach. But what he was really planning to do was deliver the exact same piece of work for £40,000 and deliver it for half price. And the agency would have been left writing off a huge loss. Now, I've seen this time and time again, and not just in creative agencies, but in consulting, legal, accounting, in fact, across all professional services. The client says, "Yeah, we love it, but our budget is less." But instead of negotiating the scope, the team just cuts the hours and delivers the same thing for less money. Unless you built a huge buffer in your original estimate, and let's be honest, most of us haven't, you're headed for a loss. And the kicker is that cutting the scope actually earns more respect from clients. Because if you quoted them £40,000 and then you end up agreeing to do the same piece of work for £20,000, what are they going to think? That you were making a massive margin? That your original price was inflated? Maybe they're going to think you're desperate. Either way, they're not going to have a great impression of you. But if you say, okay, well, if your budget was only 20,000, let's talk about what we can do to match our scope to your budget. You show integrity, you show professionalism, and you show that your pricing was fair to begin with. So here's the lesson. If the budget gets cut, the scope must also get cut. No exceptions. Well, that's not true. The only exception is if you know it's going to be a loss leader and you make it very clear to the client that you're going to do the piece of work for a loss and that the next piece of work will have to be at full price. Remember, scope is king. Nail it down or watch your profits disappear. Now, I'd love to hear from you guys. How many times have you or your team ended up doing the same piece of work for less money? Share your scope creep stories in the comments. And if you like this content, please do like and share it. Please comment as well. I do look at all the comments and I will respond to all of them. And if you really like this video, please do subscribe for more tips on professional services.